Hello and welcome to News on NTA International. I'm Nancy Godiangunihu. Our sign language personality is Olayinka. First, the headlines. Liberians vote in presidential and parliamentary elections. United States says its Feed the Future Nigeria agribusiness program attracts more than 180 billion naira worth of investments into Nigeria. Federal government reaffirms its commitment to changing the narrative of hardship being occasioned by out-of-pocket spending on health services. And now the news in full. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris Malagi, has promised to mobilize adequate funding for the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, to become a destination TV station and reach its full potential before the end of his tenure. This was while inspecting facilities at the NTA headquarters for the first time since his assumption of duties as a minister. Ekemili Williams reports.
How are you? Well done. When he was casting you,
The minister, who was on his first official visit to the NTA headquarters in Abuja, was accompanied by the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Dr. Ngozi Onwudiwe. The minister and his entourage were conducted round the domestic satellite, studios and control rooms of the NTA News 24, NTA International and Network News by the Director General of the NTA, Malam Abdul Hamid Sani Udembos.
We have just been upgraded to HD. We produce like 11 programs, so we record other programs in this too.
The Director General, who conducted the minister's entourage round the facilities, stated that one of the major challenges bedeviling the broadcast media, especially the NTA, is low budgetary allocation to execute transformative projects in technology and programming.
Many broadcast media outlets struggle with the inadequate funding, affecting the quality of their programming and equipment, and the Nigerian Television Authority is not an exception, talking about low budgetary allocations.
He added that the NTA has reopened offices in the UK, Egypt, Kenya, South Africa and Ghana. The minister says he is pleased with the organization's advancement in digitization, saying the best of NTA is yet to come under his administration.
what is going to take my focus is this process of digitization. Like I was telling the DG, it is absolutely important that the digitization process of the NTA has to be taken to its logical conclusion. Because I'm aware that it requires significant funding to reach your full potential, and because I also recognize the pivotal role that the NTA as a reliable source of information plays, I would like to assure you that I will do everything within my power to mobilize the resources that you require for this important journey.
Mohammed Idris said his first focus will be to ensure full digitization of NTA once and for all. In Abuja, Ekemini Williams, NTA News.
Governments at all levels must address the root causes of poverty, inequality and violence, discrimination to reduce the level of mental issues in society. Bassey Tankman reports on this and the other issues at the press briefing to mark this year's World Mental Health Day at the instance of the Ministry of Health and its partners.
World Mental Health Day, among other things, provides an opportunity for government and key players to talk about what needs to be done to make mental health care a reality for people worldwide. In Nigeria, stakeholders expressed concern about the increasing rates of mental health issues and the need for continuous advocacy.
And people with mental health conditions should not be deprived of their human rights or be excluded from making decisions about their own health.
While the Minister of Health states revealed government intentions to change the face of psychiatric hospitals in the country, the coordinating Minister of Health was emphatic on making healthcare services accessible to all Nigerians, including mental health, in line with the renewed agenda of the present administration.
Beyond the traditional mental health issues,
bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety. We also have a scourge that we really need to focus more on, is rising cases of substance abuse. This is really affecting our society. I'll be mindful of my word, actually causing destruction to a lot of our youth and adolescents.
This is a hidden epidemic that is with us, and yet we don't see it enough. And I want to call on us as we celebrate this day to look beyond the veil and look closely at the individuals around us, our families, our communities, our co-workers, and look at them with the eyes of empathy, to put yourself in their position. If you are suffering for a disease, there's no reason for it to be stigmatized.
The theme for this year's celebration is Mental Health, Our Rights, to mobilize efforts in support of mental health care. Basi Taipan, NTA News.
And to speak more on World Mental Health Day, I have with me in the studio National Coordinator, National Mental Health Program, the Federal Ministry of Health, Dr. Tunde Ojo. You're welcome to NT International, Dr. Ojo.
Thank you for having me.
Now, when issue of mental health is mentioned, the first thing that comes to mind is madness. Now, what is your take on this?
Well, unfortunately, that's a very wrong narrative, but that's what we find commonly in our society. But mental health is far more beyond that, talking about looking at it from disease perspective. But when we are talking about mental health, it talks about our overall mental well-being, for people to be able to be productive in their society and be able to contribute meaningfully into their society. And of course, that will be brought about by their own being able to ensure a good, sound mind. And so when people talk about mental health, they talk about it from disease perspective. And that's the narrative that we want to change, that when we talk about mental health, it's about promoting good habits that will enhance our mental well-being, and that also mental health conditions can be prevented to a large extent. And so people, when they talk about mental health and then they talk about mad people in the street, I think that is how to stigmatize mental health. So mental health is not just about mental illness, but our well-being and what we can do even to enhance our mental well-being.
So not every mental health issue is madness. Now, what has been the impact of the yearly celebration of World Mental Health Day?
Well, so the good thing about the World Mental Health Day that started as far back as 1992 is that it brings together stakeholders to be able to discuss how to move mental health agenda forward globally and locally, and it also increases awareness surrounding mental health. And so that's what we do on this day of World Mental Health Day, bring partners together from different sectors of the society to discuss our mental health and have an appraisal of what has been done and what is yet to be done and how do we go about that.
Now let's look at Nigeria. Mental health issue is said to be on the increase here. How far is this true?
Well, I think if we're talking about mental health, the burden of mental health is high globally, and so Nigeria is not an isolated case. So I won't say that it's on the increase in the country as we have in other parts of the world, but we know that there are quite a lot of factors that come together to affect our mental health. But I think what we should talk about more is about what the government is doing in order to ensure the mental well-being of Nigeria. And I think in that case, the Federal Ministry of Health, working with other critical stakeholders, has been doing so much to address the mental well-being of Nigerians. And of course, today, as World Mental Health Day, we could see the Honorable Coordinating Minister for Health and Social Welfare resounded the commitment of the government of Nigeria to ensuring the mental well-being of Nigerians.
Can you talk to us on the theme of this year's celebration, health, mental health, our right? It is okay not to be okay. What does this mean, please?
Yeah, so mental health is a universal human right. And so when we talk about universal human right, health, mental health is an extension of health. So it's a basic right, and so it's a right issue. Everybody, just like everyone is a right to have access to education, the same thing to health and mental health inclusive, making it accessible, affordable, and quality mental health. So, when we say it is okay not to be okay, it's just to be able for us to have positive conversation around mental health. So that when you have a mental health condition or when you have a down moment, it's okay not to be okay, so that you can seek help, so that you can talk to people, and then you can be signposted to where you can get help. And I think what has demystified mental health in other parts of the world is people being able to come forward and said, I have this, I'm living well with it, and I'm okay. So, but around here, people are afraid to talk about their mental health condition, what they're struggling with. And we've seen a lot of things that have been going on in Nigeria that it's only when the people get to a very critical level, you see a lot of suicide being reported. But because people have gotten to their brink, but I didn't mean that they know that this has been a normalized conversation. I can talk to people about my mental health, what I'm struggling with, and I've been assessing help. Maybe we will have had a lot of better outcomes. So I think when we say it's okay not to be okay, is that you can come forward, talk about your mental health, seek help early, and of course, in the workplace also, employers of laborers, we know that if someone has a mental health condition, it doesn't mean they cannot be productive in their workplace, and also it doesn't mean that they should be discriminated against or their condition be stigmatized.
Thank you so much, Tunde Ojo, for coming on our news.
Thank you.
And we move on. The federal government has renewed its commitment to changing the hardship being occasioned by out-of-pocket spending on health services in Nigeria. The coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Ali Pate, made the pledge while unveiling the NTA operational guidelines 2023 in Abuja. Uche Ugochukwu was there.
This document is the secondary law that operationalizes the NTAi Act, which clarifies the roles and obligations of different stakeholders and facilitates the implementation of health insurance in Nigeria.
To the current and future release of the national insurance ecosystem, I restate the commitment of NTAi to provide the needed leadership and regulatory oversight. We must all work together to ensure that we improve the HMT narrative. And the only way we can do that is to have a continuous and effective pool of resources that we can utilize to improve on healthcare delivery.
We still have a lot of work to do, because once we unveil this thing we have today, we now go to sensitization.
We don't want to have guidelines that will still stay on the shelves. But we have to ensure ways to ensure that we have a result-oriented dissemination of the guidelines so that they could be effectively utilized at the sub-national level up to the local government level.
Through collaboration, research, and consideration of international best practices, the guidelines provide an enabling platform to attend to the healthcare of the 83 million vulnerable Nigerians.
One will give our own support to provide those funds, livelihood, sustainability, whatever it is, that can help them afford to pay for their insurance, who want to see that they are insured.
We are more committed as an organization in providing technical support to the NHI and SSHIAs.
And for the states that are here and will advocate that they provide the human resources to make the state health insurance schemes really stronger, to enroll their formal sector employees, and to provide their counterpart funding for the BHCPF, the 25% that they need to provide.
With this document, state and non-state actors believe Nigeria is on track to redefine healthcare and become a reference point in Africa and the world at large. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
This is news on NTA International. More reports when we return after the break.
making the economy more robust by lowering transport costs shall be key. In this regard, we have opened a new chapter in public transportation through the development of cheaper, safer, compressed natural gas, CNG, buses across the nation. These buses will operate at a fraction of current fuel prices, positively affecting transport fare. The new CNG conversion kits will start coming in very soon, as all hands are on deck to fast-track the usual lengthy procurement process.
Thanks for staying with us. Israel says it recaptured the areas of the Gaza border from Hamas militants as the death toll from the war rises. Adebola Brookslin has an update on the Israel-Gaza conflict.
It's about 4 days of fierce fighting since the Hamas militants launched a surprise attack on Israel. In response, the Israeli military conducted hundreds of airstrikes targeting Hamas sites and headquarters in the region. The Gaza Strip finds itself at the front lines in the ongoing Hamas-Israel military conflicts and has witnessed extensive destruction of homes and infrastructure, further compounding the already dead humanitarian crisis in the region. Arafah, a government spokesman in Gaza, said the airstrikes have caused significant casualties and severe damage to residential buildings as well as critical infrastructure, including electricity and water supply. Meanwhile, thousands of Palestinians in Gaza have fled their homes close to the border with Israel and are taking shelter in a school administered by the United Nations as fears rise over a further escalation of the conflict, which erupted on Saturday.
En hommage aux victimes, en signe de solidarité avec leurs familles.
In another development, French Parliament observed a minute silence for victims of the attacks by Hamas at the start of a government question time. The session was devoted largely to the situation in the Middle East, where French Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne told MPs that the country stands by the Israeli people after the horror of the terrorist attacks. Adebola Brookslin, NTA News.
Again, here is Adebola Brookslin reporting that the World Food Programme, WFP, has begun rolling out food distributions to nearly 900,000 refugees in Ethiopia following a full revamp of its refugee operations. Report.
Families living in refugee camps, including new arrivals who have fled from Sudan, are receiving food parcels for the first time since the organization suspended food distributions in June following reports of large-scale diversions. The World Food Programme says resuming food assistance for refugees is vital. About 35,000 people who fled from the crisis in Sudan to Ethiopia in the last 6 months urgently require food assistance. While Ethiopia hosts more than 850,000 refugees, mostly from Somalia, South Sudan, and Eritrea. Latest hunger data shows that refugee food security has deteriorated in the past months, leading to increased malnutrition, heightened tensions around the camps, and even unsafe journeys over the borders. The agency says teams and partners have been working hard to ensure they get food to those who need it most, adding that food is a lifeline for refugees in unimaginable conditions. Adebola Brookslin, NTA News.
Liberians have voted in a fiercely contested presidential election, with former football star George Weah making a bid for a second term. Adebola Brookslin Sunday reports that about 2.4 million eligible voters also voted in the parliamentary election.
Incumbent President George Weah faces 19 candidates. His main challenger is 78 years old former Deputy President Joseph Boakai. Polling stations opened at 8 a.m. in Liberia Tuesday, with over 2.4 million registered voters for the general elections. Polling stations closed at 6 p.m. Liberian time, with first result expected within 15 days. To win the presidency, a candidate must get at least 50% plus one of the votes cast. If no party reaches that threshold, the two parties with the most votes in the first round will proceed for a runoff election in November. Voters will also elect members of the House of Representatives and the Senate at the end of their term of office. This will be the first time that a generation of young voters born in peacetime Liberia will vote for a president. Adebola Brooks Lane, NTA News.
The United States says its Feed the Future Nigeria agribusiness program has attracted more than 180 billion naira worth of investment into Nigeria. This is coming as Nigeria gets set to host the 2023 Africa Cassava Conference. Musa Aliyu reports.
In 2008, Nigeria keyed into the United States Feed the Nation's agricultural program. The initiative brought partners together to address the root causes of hunger and poverty by boosting agricultural-led growth, resilience and nutrition in countries with great need and opportunity for improvement. The $15.7 million for Nigeria, the U.S. agency says, has assisted over 17,000 micro, small and medium enterprises in 7 states of Benue, Cross River, Delta, Ebonyi, Kaduna, Kebbi and Niger.
As we celebrate 5 years of significant achievements in the agribusiness investment activity, we urge the Nigerian government and financial sector counterparts to continue to advocate for pro-business policies in the agriculture sector, such as the Investment and Security Bill of 2022. This piece of legislation is essential to increase access to finance for agribusinesses and smallholder farmers in Nigeria.
The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and that of Trade and Investment says the financial assistance and the approach has significantly improved the country's food security.
To further support the agricultural initiatives of government for collective impact on smallholder farmers, to boost food availability and create job opportunities for our teeming population.
The Ministry would particularly like to extend our collaboration to Feed the Future Nigeria agribusiness investment activities towards implementation of Nigeria's Industrial Revolution Plan.
In the meantime, the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari, said Nigeria will maximize all the benefits and potentials in cassava production for export. The minister was speaking in preparation for the upcoming Africa Cassava Conference.
The Federal Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, through the cassava value chain, is continuously working earnestly towards continuous promotion and development of cassava and its derivatives, leveraging on the country's comparative advantage of the commodity as world's largest producer with a view to driving its maximum benefits.
The Cassava Conference is scheduled for next week, just as the country is set to mark World Food Day on the 16th of October 2023. Musa Aliyu, NTA News.
5 federal universities are set to benefit from the NOTAP Industry Research Laboratory Upgrade Project initiated by the National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion. Justin Bemunyu reports that the laboratories to be upgraded in these selected universities are of chemistry and chemical engineering, and thus is aimed at bringing together the academia and industry for technological development.
This is coming with a signing of a tripartite memorandum between the industry, being the sponsors, NOTAP, the promoters, and the universities who are the beneficiaries. As the pens ink the papers, it activates the industry, financing close to 100 million naira in each of the 5 universities' chemistry and chemical engineering laboratories to upgrade them to state-of-the-art facilities at par with what internationally recognized research centers use. Beneficiaries of the NOTAP Industry Research Laboratory Upgrade Project at the University of Port Harcourt, Rivers State, University of Jos, Plateau State, Federal University of Technology, Akure, Ondo State, Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto State, and Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike, Abia State.
The universities are doing their best, undertaking research, but in my own opinion, and I'm sure it's in the opinion of most of us, most of the R&D results are still on the shelf. And so long as they don't translate into product and services, they are of little or no value to the system. And if the private sector doesn't pick it, it may not translate into product and services. So as regulators, we try to synergize a bond of relationship between the private sector and the academia. That is, in our own belief, what would eventually see our R&D efforts translating into products and services.
This philosophy that researchers in our institution are not meant for library shelves. You just mentioned that it should not just remain in the library shelves, and industry should optimize the use of indigenous research institution who ideally should have better understanding of the local needs and the consumer opportunities what we have. So this is
a major objective of this program is to bring together the academia and industry so that the local industry will immensely benefit from the research in the academia without recourse to external assistance. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
The Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has disqualified the Bayelsa State All Progressives Congress APC candidate in the November 11 governorship election, Timipre Silva. Justice Donatus Okorowo gave the order while delivering verdict in a suit filed by Deme Kolomo, a member of the APC, in June 2023. The court also held that the Timipre Silva, having been sworn in twice and ruled for 5 years as governor of Bayelsa State, would breach the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended if allowed to contest again. Justice Okorowo declared that Silva was not qualified to run in the November poll because if he wins and is sworn in, he will spend more than 8 years in office as governor of the state, as stipulated under the law. Citing the case of Marwa versus Nyako at the Supreme Court, Okorowo noted that the drafters of the country's constitution stated that nobody should be voted for as governor more than twice, and that the parties to the suit agreed that Silva was voted into office 2 times. In the meantime, the All Progressives Congress, APC, says it will appeal the judgment disqualifying its governorship candidate in the forthcoming election in Bayelsa State. Next is Wednesday's weather forecast. And that's it on the news. Thank you for watching. I'm Nancy. Godiang on you.